So you want to learn how to make amigurumis, but you don't know where to start? Well, today I'm going to teach you 3 different techniques to get your amigurumi started. Let's dive on in.
Okay. So the first one that we're going to learn is called the magic ring. So I'm just going to grab this sunflower face color here. I've got my mini sunflower here. So this is kind of what I'm working on anyway. Okay, so what you want to do is you're going to want to make a sort of pistol shape with your hand, okay? So your pinky and your ring finger are going to be holding the working yarn. Your tail is going to be wrapping behind these 2 fingers, your pointer and your middle finger, okay? So you're going to wrap it around once and twice and hold that tail with your thumb, okay? So you should have, again, you're holding this working yarn here with your back 2 fingers, your pinky and your ring. You've got your pistol shape and you've got 2 loops over your 2 fingers there, okay? Now you're gonna take your hook. So I'm using a size 3.5 millimeter. It doesn't really matter what size hook you use or what yarn you use, you can use this technique. You're gonna go under the tail yarn that you're holding with your thumb over the first loop here and pull that loop underneath the tail, okay? So do you see what we're doing? So let's try that again. I just want to show you. Here's my thumb holding that tail, going under the tail, up and over that first loop there, pulling that first loop underneath the tail, okay, and then bring it upward. So now if you're looking at it straight on, it looks kind of like an A shape, right? So now that you're holding it up here with your hook, you're going to pinch with your finger and your other thumb here. You're going to hold onto this loop that's around your 2 fingers because you need to pull your fingers out, okay? So you're pulling your fingers out. You're going to release just that working tail here so that you can use it. Now swivel your hand so that you can grab that working tail, okay? So you're yarning over and then you're pulling through that loop. So now if you release, you'll see that you have a loop now on your hook, okay? So you've got your loop, your tail, and then your working yarn is here, all right? So let's do that one more time because I want to make sure that we see how we get this secured and then we can start working into that magic loop, okay? Our magic ring. So you've got your pistol shape, your back 2 fingers are holding your working yarn, your tail, you take your other hand and you're going to wrap it once and twice, holding the tail with your thumb. Now we're going under the tail, over the loop, the first loop, pulling that first loop underneath the tail. Okay, now we're looking at it straight on. We're grabbing the loop that's around our fingers here. We're pulling our fingers out. We're just holding the loop, okay? So the loop is being held between our pointer fingers and our thumbs on both sides. That gives us the working yarn still being held by our back 2 fingers, okay? So with that, now you're gonna go ahead and yarn over from the back and pull through. So now you have essentially put a slip stitch onto the ring, and that's what's holding the ring now. Now we're gonna go working into that ring. So we're gonna go into the ring. We're still holding this working yarn here. We're still holding it with our back fingers. Now you can grab it with more fingers now that you have them. Okay, we're going to go into that loop, yarning over from the back, pulling forward, yarn over again, and pull through. Okay, that's 1 single crochet into that magic ring. Usually on an amigurumi, you're going to end up with 6 single crochets into a magic ring. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's more, but normally it's going to be 6. So you're just going into that loop, yarning over from the back, pulling forward, yarn over again, pull through. Okay, so now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm just keeping going here. so that we can end up with 6. So we're going into the loop, yarn over from the back, pull forward, yarn over again, and pull through. Now I've got 6. So if you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're like little braids, right? So each little V counts as 1 stitch. Okay, so now you got the stitches. Now what? Now we take our tail. We're going to hold the stitches with our other hand here, and we're gently pulling this tail. And what that's doing is that's closing the ring. Do you see that? Look at that. Okay. So that is a magic ring. Then you just go ahead and put your stitch marker on. Okay, you can put the tail to the back or you can work around it, however you'd like, and then you'll just continue on in the round. So you'll just start single crocheting or increasing, depending on your pattern, into that first single crochet here. Okay, and you just go around and around. That's the first technique. Okay, one done. We've done our magic ring. Now I'm going to teach you another technique. It's called the double magic ring. And as you can imagine, double meaning 2, we're doing the same kind of thing. Okay, so we start off with our pistol shape, just the same. Now we're going to go towards the back, but instead of going once and twice and just stopping there, we're going to go around 1 additional time. Okay, so there's 3 now on here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. This is our tail here. This is our working yarn here. Okay, now you're taking your hook. You're going under that tail just as you did before, but you're going to go under the second one, the middle loop here, and then over that first loop. Pull the first loop forward just like you did before, and then we'll pull our fingers out exactly like we did before. Okay, the only difference is that now there's 2 loops that I'm holding between my fingers. That's the only difference so far. Okay, so I want to explain why we would do a double magic ring too. So first we're yarning over from the back, pulling forward, and just pulling through. So that's our slip stitch on our double magic ring. So here's 2 loops and our tail. Okay, and then just as before, we're going into those 2 loops now, and we're just single crocheting those 6 because we're going to start off with a single crochet of 6. Okay, so let's just do that real fast. We're going in, yarning over from the going in, yarning over from the back, pulling forward, yarning over again, pulling through. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, here's where it's just a little bit different. What you want to do is you take your tail, you're going to gently start to pull it. If you see one of the loops start to go in, that's the loop you want to grab first. Okay, so this is the loop for me that's going in. Now I'm going to gently pull that loop, and you'll notice that the other one pulls in. Okay, so now I've pulled the 1 loop in, and now I just have the second loop. Now I take my tail again, where is it? And I pull that one. Okay, now that is a double magic ring. It looks the same, just like the single magic ring or the regular magic ring. Here's the difference. Especially depending on what kind of yarn you're using. With the acrylic yarns, it's not as big a deal because acrylic yarn is very sturdy, tight as it is. So most likely your little center ring, it's not going to loosen. Okay. Sometimes though, different yarns are different smoothness, softer, looser. They can be. Okay, and what can happen over time is that little ring in the center can actually expand a little bit and leave a gap. With the double magic ring having those 2 in there, that prevents that from happening, or it makes it much more difficult. Okay, because it's doubly tightened. So that's the beauty of the double magic ring. You'll notice, and this is something that I've found personally, is that with certain yarns, for example, blanket yarns, they are so thick and they are so temperamental and sensitive to being pulled tight, they can actually just snap, that sometimes the double magic ring will not work because it will just make them snap rather than being able to actually do both those loops like we just did. So depending on the yarn you're using, if you can, I would suggest the double magic ring. If you can't, like in a blanket yarn or something, the regular magic ring will work just fine. Okay, so there's 2. I promised you 1 additional way to start an amigurumi piece. This is the way that before the double magic ring and before the magic ring came out, this was the way that you usually would start that center circle. So rather than wrapping it around your fingers and such, we're going to take our tail. We are going to wrap it just so that we can create a slip knot, okay? So to create a slip knot, you wrap it once, you take your tail, you tuck it in between that loop that you made, grab your tail now, and then just pull the loop, okay? So this creates a knot that is a slip knot. You can see that it slips. Then you're gonna put it on your hook, okay? Here we go. So we got our tail and we got our working yarn. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna chain 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So I'm going to chain 4. You could chain less, but what you need to do is basically you're going into that first chain. So if you see the V, you're going right in the middle of it. Yarning over from the back, pulling forward, and then pulling it through that loop, doing a slip stitch, okay? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to find that center hole because you just made a circle, right? You made a chain and then you connected it to the first one. That creates a small ring. You go right into that center and you start crocheting your single crochets. So I've got 1, going back into the same center hole. You've got 2. Here's another one, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops, hang on, get that center one. There it is, 6. Okay. This one you're going to have to kind of shape it a little bit. That's also formed a ring. It's not as pretty, and it does have a little bit of a gap in there, but it is a possibility. So it is an additional way that you can create the magic ring. It's not the one I would recommend just because you really want that center magic ring, and you'll see this one right here, to be extremely tight. You don't want to have a gap there. Depending on what you're working on, you know, if you're making something else that's not amigurumis especially, for example, you know, slippers, something in the front where you just start that ring, it's okay to get away with a little bit of a gap here and there. However, I would normally do the double magic ring when I can, and then the magic ring if I can't. But in this case, you would then just go into your initial single crochet, like so, and then you would start doing your increasing after you place your stitch marker. But this is just for show, that's why I'm not grabbing one. Otherwise I would. And I'm just going to do an increase row so I can show you what it looks like at the end. So just give me one moment. Okay, here we go. So this is the one that we just did, and this is made with the chain to start. Okay, looks pretty good. I wouldn't say it's as good, but I mean, that's really personal preference. And I did get the center circle area, the center hole, pretty tight. So you could certainly do this technique, and it's entirely up to your preference and what is easiest for you to do. But either way, now you have 3 different techniques to start making your amigurumi. So let me know in the comments, guys, which is your favorite. Would you pick the magic ring, the double magic ring, or working into that chain to get the ring that you need? All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you'll be let know of any new videos that come out here on Frizzy Bee. Thanks, guys.